don't know why. It's just the way things are. And what's more, I don't see why a 32-hour day would be more sensible. Yes, I know that. But 24 hours is the time it takes the world to turn around. And that makes 1 day. And 7 days make 1 week. No, we don't have any months with 32 days in them. You've got a thing about 32. You see, there are 365 days in a year. And these fall into 12 months. And these... No, it's not stupid. It's not.
A strange conversation for a boy of 12 to be having. But when I looked out of the window to see who Matthew was talking to, the situation seemed more than strange. It became worrying. Matthew was entirely on his own. This was the first time we became aware of Chocky.
Chocky, a science fiction story by John Wyndham, dramatized from a novel by John Tydeman, with Eric Thompson as David Gore and Jay Bennett as Matthew. Chocky.
Darling, have you noticed anything odd about Matthew lately?
Oh, so you have you, David?
Well, unusual is perhaps a better word.
What was he doing? Listening to nothing or talking to himself?
Talking to... No, he was doing both, really. Mary, how long has this been going on?
Oh, I suppose I first noticed it about 2 or 3 weeks ago.
But why didn't you say anything about it before?
It doesn't seem worth bothering about. I thought it was just one of those crazes that children get. Well, you know, like the time he kept on pretending he was a car, changing gear on the lights, pulling up the brake to stop, and so on. Well, it wore off pretty quickly. I expect this will, too.
You're not worried about him, then?
Oh, good gracious, no. I'm only worried about us.
Us?
Well, you remember what we went through when Polly introduced that dreadful Hardy-like creature into our lives?
Piff?
Yes, Piff.
Yeah, but Polly was only 5 then. Matthew's a boy of 12.
Oh, there's no telling with children.
Oh?
I just hope that I don't have to lay an extra place at table and keep off certain chairs or make up a special bed as I had to for Pip.
I remember that when I left her behind, when we went off on that picnic, Polly wouldn't speak to me for days. She just directed things at me through Piff.
It's quite normal for children to invent an imaginary friend.
Yes, and I must say this one of Matthew seems more intelligent than Piff. I mean, he's got firm opinions of his own about the number of hours there should be in a day or days in a week, for instance. And it's got a thing about the number 32.
I expect Matthew's only working out something for himself, something he's been told at school.
What sort of things have you heard him talking about?
Well, he just mutters to himself most of the time. I don't pay much attention. And I certainly don't want to encourage another Piff. Though there is one thing.
Yeah?
The questions he's been asking lately.
Lately? He's always asking questions.
I know, but recently they've been different. A different sort of slant.
Such as?
Well, the other day, when he was helping me with the washing up, he asked why there are 2 sexes. He couldn't see why you needed 2 people to produce one.
I suppose you answered because it helps to spread the load.
Oh, darling.
Sorry.
Well, then he asked, where is Earth? There was no good me saying that it went round the sun, because he then asked, where is the sun? It's not like his usual kind of question at all, the why can't we live on grass if horses can sort of thing.
He's probably reached a stage of development where things are beginning to widen out for him.
But why should they widen out so suddenly?
Well, it's his schooling. I mean, children go to school to have their interests developed.
This isn't quite like that. It's the changing quality and approach.
Perhaps he's a late developer and really is a born genius.
That's the whole point, David. Born. If only we knew a little more about his parents, that might help. When Polly, I can see bits of you and bits of me, gives one a feeling of something to go on. But with an adopted child like Matthew, there's no guide at all.
Now, look, I thought we'd exhausted that old heredity versus environment argument years ago.
Don't be silly, darling. Of course we did. And that's not what I meant at all.
Look, whatever it is, there's no use in worrying too much about it yet. It's probably no more than a passing phase. Then no more awkward questions.
Daddy, why is it a cow stops?
What do you mean? Why does it stop what?
Well, it gets a bit of the way, then it doesn't seem to get any further.
Bit of the way where?
Well, when old Albert comes to the gate, they understand it's milking time. They know which stall to go to in the shed, and they understand about waiting there until they've been milked. But when they go back to the field, they just stop. Well, why?
You mean they stop understanding?
Yes. You see, they don't want to stay in the field, because if they find a gap in the hedge, they get out. So if they want to go out, why don't they open the gate for themselves and go?
Because they don't know how to open the gate.
Well, that's just it, Daddy. Why don't they understand how to open it? They've seen Albert open it hundreds of times, and they've got enough brains to understand which stall to go to. So why can't they remember how to open the gate? It's quite simple. What is it that doesn't go on happening in their heads so that they stop?
Well, Cows have a rather limited intelligence, Matthew.
But how do you limit intelligence? If you've got it, you've got it. It might take time, but surely the answer is bound to come up sooner or later, isn't it?
And that's rather what we felt about Matthew, sooner or later. But we weren't quite prepared for the next development. Matthew picked up some flu germ at school, and Mary and I were quite naturally worried about him as he rambled on in a high fever.
There, darling. No, Chocky, I can't understand. I want to go to sleep. No. Oh, do shut up and go away. Do stop it, Chocky.
Hmm?
Oh, Mummy, please, I'm so tired. Tell Chocky to go away. She doesn't understand. She won't leave me alone. David, who's Chocky?
Search me. Matthew, drink this like a good boy.
There. You'll feel better soon. Try to go to sleep. I want to, Mummy, but Chocky won't let me. He will keep on talking. Oh, please make him shut up. He won't listen to me. Tell him to go away now.
The old Piff technique. Try it. Go on.
Chocky, you really must let Matthew be quiet and rest. He isn't at all well, Chocky, and he needs to go to sleep. So please leave him alone now. You can come back tomorrow if he's better. See? You've got to clear out, Chocky, so that I can get better. Yes, I will. Goodbye. She's gone. Good. Now you can settle down. That's it. Good boy. Sleep well, darling. Good night, Mummy. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, Matthew. Well, what are we supposed to make of that?
It looks dangerously like another Piff.
I hope it's less of a pest than the last one. Though I can't help feeling there's something wrong.
Oh, you mean Chocky's sex? He can't seem to make up his mind if it's a him or her. Well, children are usually very positive about that. They feel it's important.
I wouldn't say the feeling's entirely restricted to children, but I do see what you mean. It's odd. The whole thing's odd.
Well, if Chocky is another version of Piff, then he or she does seem to have barged into the wrong age group this time.
But even if the age group was wrong, Chocky was decidedly preferable to Piff, largely because of the lack of any physical presence. And Matthew became increasingly forthcoming on the subject once he was better. In fact, all his questions were now put on Chocky's behalf, with Matthew acting as go-between or interpreter. Chocky says he doesn't see how. Chocky says she doesn't understand why. We had to solve the problem of gender.
Chocky says she doesn't understand that, and therefore he cannot accept it.
Now, look here, Matthew. I get confused with all this he and she business. On grounds of grammar alone, it would be easier to know which Chocky is.
Yes, I agree. I asked Chocky, but he didn't seem to know.
But that's surely one of the things people are generally pretty certain about.
I know, but Chocky's sort of different. I explained about hims and hers to her, but she just didn't understand, and said it seemed a pretty silly arrangement. She wanted to know why it was like that.
Well, it's just one of nature's ways of arranging things. It has to be.
That's what I said, but he still couldn't see why. Chocky's like that. He keeps on finding lots of quite ordinary things silly.
Well, look, from our point of view, it would be easier if Chocky were one thing or the other. Boy or girl.
Well, he does talk rather like a boy, but most of the time it's not about the sort of things boys talk about, if you see what I mean. Mostly she goes on in the rather snooty sort of way chaps' older sisters behave.
Then let's call Chocky a she, shall we? It's easier to be one thing or the other, especially when we're talking among ourselves.
Okay, she.
Good.
Daddy? You don't think I'm mad, do you?
Good heavens, no. What put an idea like that into your head?
Well, it was Colin, a boy at school.
You haven't told him about Chocky?
Oh, no, only you and Mummy and Polly know about her. And Polly doesn't really understand. She's too young.
What did Colin say?
Well, I asked him if he knew anyone who could hear someone talking, kind of inside himself. And he said no, because hearing voices was the first sign of madness. And people who heard them were put in asylums or burnt at the stake like Joan of Arc. So I sort of wondered...
Oh, now that's quite different. There are voices that prophesy things and persuade people to do things and muddle them up generally. They're not like Chocky. You don't want to worry about that, Matthew. Don't worry at all.
Good. I think I'd hate to go mad. You see, I don't feel at all mad.
I think being a parent must have been a lot more fun before Freud was invented. I suppose if this fantasy game doesn't clear up soon, we shall feel a moral, social and medical obligation to do something about it.
No, I'm all for keeping Matthew clear of that sort of thing if we can.
Oh, so am I. But it isn't very fair on other people, is it? Well, Polly, for instance. But she's always admired Matthew, looked up to him. Now this Chocky has displaced her. He's got a new friend and she feels left out, so she's jealous, and I can't say I blame her.
Well, you're beginning to talk as if Chocky were real.
Well, in a way, she is. Reality's only relative, after all. Devils and witches were real to people who believed in them, just as God is real to people who believe in him. Chocky's real enough to Matthew and to Polly. And then there was the complaint from the maths teacher at the school.
Oh, what was that?
Well, Mr. Trimble suggested that you might be over-anxious for your son's welfare and have been teaching him theorems usually reserved for third-year university students.
Well, I haven't so much as looked at Matthew's homework.
Oh, I know, but I could hardly explain that it must be Chocky. So I apologized and said I'd speak to you about it. Even so, Trimble seemed very surprised at Matthew's grasp of the binary code.
I don't know anything about the binary code. I'm just a simple accountant.
And I'm simply a mother. David, we'll have to do something if this goes on much longer.
Yes, all right. I'd better go and see it to the car while it's still light.
Oh, you and Matthew, I don't know which is the bigger baby. Neither of you can take your eyes off that car.
Well, it's big, it was expensive, and it is brand new.
Never too old for a new toy. Send Matthew in for supper, and don't be too long yourself.
No, it's not. It's lovely. It isn't funny at all. Stop laughing. Stop.
Matthew, what's the matter?
Oh, Daddy.
No, then, old man. Now, come on, take it easy. There's a good fella.
Sorry, Daddy, sorry. All right, now I think...
No, tell me what it was all about.
It was the car.
The car? What's wrong with it?
Well, it's not the car exactly. It's a supercar. It's Chocky.
Chocky?
I wanted to show off the car to Chocky, how it works and so on.
But Chocky wasn't interested.
She said it was silly, ugly, clumsy. She laughed at it.
What did she find so funny?
Everything. She said it was old-fashioned. The engine, gears, brakes, they were all silly. And she said that wheels were ridiculous.
What did she think it should have, then?
Well, she said that where she comes from, cars don't have wheels. They go along a bit above the ground and they don't make any noise, and they can't run into one another.
Very sensible. But tell me, where does Chocky come from?
Well, that's one of the things we can't work out. You see, if you don't know where anything else is, how can you find out where you are?
No points of reference, you mean?
I expect that's it. But wherever Chocky comes from, it must be a very, very long way away. Everything seems so different there.
How old is Chocky?
Oh, pretty old, though her time doesn't go like ours. She says she'll go on living till she's about 200, so I suppose that makes her about 20. She says that living until you're only about 70 or 80 is wasteful and silly.
Chocky appears to find a great many things silly.
Nearly everything, really. Though it's not always easy to make out what she means. And I suppose our ways are difficult for her to understand as well. It can get pretty boring at times.
Yes, I suppose it can.
Anyway, I don't care what she thinks. I like our new car.
And whilst we're on the subject, we might point out to Chocky that we do have such a thing as the hovercraft. So she's a bit late on that one.
And as if that business about the car wasn't enough, now there's this. Came this morning.
Oh, yes, what is it?
His school report.
Good one?
Oh, in a sense, better than usual, but reading between the lines, I think they're as puzzled as we are.
Oh, how?
Well, Trimble says that he wishes Matthew would confine his interests to orthodox mathematics. The physics master notes a difference of approach this year and too great a capacity for asking questions, whilst poor Mrs. Blade, his biology mistress, seems utterly bewildered.
I suppose he's been trying out Chocky's one-sex theories on her. All very well for oysters, but it could play havoc with the rudiments of biology teaching.
David, do be serious. We can't just let it drift any longer. We must do something.
Then what do you suggest?
Well, Dr. Acorn...
No. He's all right as a family pill pusher, but not for a matter like this. Besides, Matthew doesn't like him.
He could advise us. Well, you took us out of a list with a pin.
I'd rather ask Roy Landis.
Who's he?
He was up at Cambridge with Alan Froome and me. I only know him slightly, but Alan's kept up with him, and he thinks he's just the man.
Well, if you and Alan can persuade this Landis man to come down and see Matthew, it might do some good. How'll you break it to Matthew?
Oh, I'll tell him that Landis shares Chocky's idea, that he knows someone else in a similar sort of predicament. You know, I certainly won't alarm the child or make him think that he's an interesting case. Would Sunday be all right?
Janet and the family are coming for the weekend.
Oh, your sister and the brood.
But they'll be going after Sunday lunch.
Good.
So you could ask Landis for dinner if you like.
All right.
At least we shall feel that we're doing something. If you want any more coffee, do help yourself, Dr. Landis.
No, thank you. Can I do your glass for you, Roy? I'm all right, thanks. Mary?
No, thank you, darling.
Then I will.
Well, you two certainly had quite a session. I hope Matthew wasn't too tedious.
Tedious? Oh, no. No, it certainly wasn't that. But, David,
You didn't tell me half of it.
I don't suppose I know half of it. As his father, I didn't think it was a good idea to press him. I hoped he'd speak more freely to you.
And you were quite right. He did. He seemed puzzled and needed someone other than yourselves to talk to. I think he'll feel better for having got some of it off his chest.
That's something.
Tell me, Mrs. Gore, would you say Matthew was a highly imaginative boy?
Oh, I don't think so. I wouldn't call him highly imaginative, would you, David?
No, it's just ordinary. I suppose he reads a lot, but most boys do at his age. Venture stuff, mostly.
So you don't think he's the kind of child who would have any difficulty in distinguishing fantasy from reality?
Oh, no.
That's what I presume. So...
But so what, Dr. Landis?
Well, if you both brought Matthew to me professionally, I would and ah and stall a bit. But as I'm here as a friend, I'm going to be unprofessional. I'm going to confess that I don't know. That it has me beat.
But surely...
Oh, I know what it looks like. But that's sheer nonsense.
Well, what does it look like?
Possession.
What?
The sort of thing our unscientific ancestors used to suffer when they were possessed by demons and spirits. They would have said that Chocky had somehow invaded Matthew, got hold of him.
I'm afraid I don't understand.
Well, you see, there is quite definitely a second intelligence involved. When Matthew talks to Chocky or listens to her, words aren't needed. It's a communication of ideas. Some of the questions he asks, for instance, are quite childishly expressed.
Yes, but then he's only just 12.
But even so, he has an unusually good vocabulary for a boy of his age. He knows what he wants to ask, but he sometimes has difficulty in finding the words to express the idea that has been put into his mind.
Well, ideas have to come from somewhere. Couldn't Chocky just be a part of his mind? A name for his subconscious, if you like?
No, Chocky has a much more definite existence than that. She is more than his invention. For instance, in that affair with the car. Now, no boy of Matthew's age would dream of calling the very latest model old-fashioned, not even in his subconscious. And then this afternoon, Matthew was telling me that Chocky thought our approach to space flights and rocketry was hopelessly inadequate and out of date. According to her, the proper way to operate a spaceship is not to smash it into the sky with explosives against the whole pull of gravitation, but somehow to screen off that pull. But beyond that, Matthew couldn't get the concept. Chocky's ideas were beyond his grasp, and there were no words to fit them. Now, he couldn't make up things like that for himself.
And he certainly hasn't read them.
And then again, according to Chocky, our civilization is suffering from a primitive fixation on the wheel. We must break away from our obsession with rotary motion. Now, where would a boy pick up an idea like that?
Possession?
Yes. Well, yes, in a sense. It doesn't imply domination. It's more like a working arrangement.
What on earth do you mean by that?
Well, you remember when he was ill, he told her to shut up and go away, which with your added persuasion, she did. Similarly, when she annoyed him over the car, he rejected her. She doesn't dominate. He lays down conditions for her as he would, as he would with a friend, and she accepts them.
I think you've spent the whole day simply encouraging the boy in his fantasies. I don't see that you've done any good for Matthew or anyone.
Now, Mary,
In order to understand his condition, I've got to gain his confidence.
But you don't have to accept the reality of Chocky with us when Matthew isn't here.
Surely, Mrs. Gore, the things he's been saying, the questions he's been asking have seemed odd to you, intelligently odd. You must realize by now that it's more than an ordinary childish fantasy.
But what is it? What? Can't you see that I'm afraid of it becoming a permanent obsession? What I want to know is simply the best way of stopping that from happening, and you don't seem to be able to tell us.
For a psychiatrist, Roy Landis had made a bad psychological error in referring to possession. Mary had leapt at the word, and it added an element of irrationality to her anxiety. As far as she was concerned, there was something wrong with Matthew, and she wanted it put right without delay. Her concern was immediate.
I went to see Dr. Aycott today.
Oh, something wrong?
About Matthew.
You didn't take Matthew too?
No.
Good. He might have thought it a breach of confidence.
Yes.
As I've said, I'm not against Aycott as a cut stitcher or measles spotter, but I don't feel this kind of thing's up his street.
You're right, it isn't. As far as he's concerned, all Matthew needs is plenty of exercise, cold baths, fresh air, green salads, and the window open at night.
No specialist?
No. He's a growing boy, and nature is the greatest healer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, David, we must help him somehow.
Look, I know you didn't take to Roy, but he is highly thought of.
Dr. Landis just thought he was an interesting case. If he were to become normal again, it'd cease to be interesting.
Now, that isn't fair, darling. Matthew isn't abnormal. He's just normal plus something. Something different.
Well, you can say that again. I want you to look at these, David.
What's that?
Well, they're paintings. He must have brought them back from school. I found them when I was tidying up his room this morning, behind the chest of drawers.
You mean he'd hidden them?
No, I think they'd slipped down by accident.
Not bad. These landscapes, they're not like anything he's done before. An unusual vision of the world, three-dimensional almost. Where's that?
Oh, it's a corner of the playground. Might be from the art room window.
Figures it looked pretty spindly. This portrait thing, is this?
Mm.
Is it? I don't have green traffic lights for eyes. Well, I've got more hair than that. I suppose this one's you. It's not very nice.
That is Miss Soames, the art mistress, and not very flattering.
Well...
Those pictures, they're good, artistically.
But are they his? Did he do them? I know. There's only one way. Ask him. Is he still up?
Well, he should be. I'll see. Matthew! Matthew!
Yes, Mummy?
Daddy wants a word with you, dear, in the sitting room.
All right, Mummy, coming.
You're not going to like this, Mary.
I haven't liked any of it. I suppose it is just possible somebody gave them to him.
Matthew, shut the door. There's a good boy.
Yes, Daddy.
Mummy happened to find these when she was clearing your room.
Oh, so that's where they went.
Are they yours?
Yes.
Did you paint them?
Yes.
They're better than the pictures you usually do in art.
These aren't art, they're private.
You seem to be seeing things in quite a different way.
Yes, I expect it's something to do with growing up.
Did you really do them, Matthew?
Yes. Well, I mean, sort of. Well, I did do them.
Oh, it's all right, darling. They're so good that Daddy and I were interested, that's all. Did this view really look like that to you?
I did them, Mummy, but they look a bit funny because that's the way that Chocky sees things.
Well, tell us about it, darling.
Well, one day after art class, Chocky said that I didn't see things properly. I didn't understand what she meant, so she told me to sit down and think of nothing. Sort of switch off me and just let the picture come. And it did. Well, she sees it and I do it.
You mean you hand over to Chocky?
Yes. It's like riding a bicycle without hands. Only Chocky does the steering, not me.
And it doesn't happen when you don't want it to?
Oh, no. I have to make it happen. The doing is all mine. They're much better than the pictures I paint when they're entirely mine, don't you think?
Have you shown them to anyone else?
Not shown exactly. But Miss Soames saw the one at the playground and made me, well, Chocky and me, do another picture while she watched.
What did she do with it?
I don't know. I think she kept it.
Well, we'd like to keep these for a while, just to look at.
All right. But don't lose them.
No, we won't. Now, time you off to bed. Don't read too late. Mummy will look in and tuck you up, won't you?
Oh, yes, darling.
Oh, Daddy, can I borrow that book? The one on the middle shelf?
What? What, Louis Mumford's Living in Cities? That's a bit heavy for bedtime reading, isn't it?
Pretty boring. But Chocky thinks it's interesting. The bits I can understand for her.
Well, give it a rest for tonight, eh? Get some sleep like a good fella.
Okay. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Mummy. Oh, and Daddy?
Yes?
That portrait isn't a bit like you. It isn't, really.
Oh, David. You were such a lovely boy, and now...
No, Mary.
But
Mary.
I'm afraid for him, David. This Chocky, this whatever it is, it's getting more real for
Mary,
him.
come on now.
He's beginning to let it take control of him. I'm afraid, David. Afraid.
For our summer holiday, Mary and I took a cottage on the North Wales coast with Alan and Phyllis Froome. Their two children were much of an age with our own, so it all worked out rather well. It also allowed the adults to take turns at going off duty for a bit, so Mary and I would take every opportunity we could to explore the countryside together. Towards the middle of the second week, we returned late from one such expedition, and as soon as we reached the cottage, we both sensed something was wrong.
What happened, Alan? What's the matter? I know something's happened.
There's nothing to worry about. Polly and Matthew are quite safe. But what's happened? Slight accident, that's all.
No.
They fell in the river, but they're quite all right.
Where are they?
Upstairs. Phil's with them. She gave them warm drinks, a good bath, and put them to bed.
Oh, I'll go up and see them right away. Oh.
Sorry about all this, Alan. Thanks for coping.
Well, it gave us a nasty shock, I must say. Here, let me get you a drink.
Thanks. Whiskey? Fine. Well, what happened exactly?
Well, the kids, all four of them, were playing around that rickety old landing stage on the estuary when that hulking great motorboat of Bill Weston's broke its moorings. Yeah.
Thanks.
The tide had just turned and was running out pretty fast. Carried the boat downstream and it sucked the landing stage full tilt. Well, the end of the thing collapsed and Matthew and Polly were thrown into the water.
What about your two?
Well, they were standing back a bit from the end, so they were okay.
Oh, that's some mercy. There's a pretty strong current out there.
Yeah, I know. Evans, who saw it all, thought Matthew and Polly had been done for. But then he saw your boy strike out for the girl, reach her and support her until help came.
Matthew?
Yeah. Well, Colonel Summers went after them in his boat, and by the time he'd reached them, they'd been swept a good mile downstream. Matthew was still supporting Polly. pretty tricky in the current.
Yeah.
Old Summers was very impressed. Never seen anything like it, he said. He reckons that Matthew deserves a medal for what he did, and he's jolly well going to see he gets one. Wouldn't be surprised if he hasn't written off already to the Royal Swimming Society with a recommendation. I must say, we'll all back him up. There's no doubt your Polly would be a goner if it hadn't been for Matthew. I didn't know the boy had it in him.
He hasn't.
What?
Look, Alan, have you ever seen Matthew swim?
Well, now you come to mention it, I can't
No,
say.
you can't say, because you've never seen it. Matthew can't swim more than 3 consecutive strokes. He hates the water.
Then you mean...
Yes. Chocky.
But surely, David, you can't believe...
We've been over all this with Roy Landis. Now, you were in on all that, and you know what Roy thinks.
Yes, but this is different.
Yes, I know. But if it was Chocky who, what can one say? I mean, helped Matthew, then it opens up an entirely new phase in the business.
So, if it weren't for Chocky, then you reckon your two wouldn't be here now?
That's about it. I only hope Mary sees it that way.
She ought to be grateful.
Well, she ought to be, but somehow people find it easier to believe in evil spirits rather than good ones.
Of course, it could just have been the self-preservation instinct.
Yes, it could have been, but somehow I don't think so in this case. Anyhow, there's only one way to find out, and that's to ask Matthew.
Do you think he'll tell you?
Oh, yes, yes. We haven't any secrets from each other about Chocky. At least not yet.
That was our reporter, Tim Matthews,
yes.
speaking to us from the Kingdom of Mercia, or, as we know it, Montgomeryshire. The time is exactly 25.5 past 8. And I've got that right.
Come on, darling, you must get a move.
Well, now, from the
right.
influence
Let's finish this.
of early angles to the incidence of a modern angel. Whilst on holiday in Wales, young Matthew Gore saved his even younger sister from drowning. Eyewitnesses maintain that he supported her whilst they were both swept out to sea for nearly 2 miles. But the peculiar thing is that Matthew had never swum before. Dennis Chattery.
Matthew, your reports about the incident, are they true?
Well, yes, I suppose so.
Well, and you never swum before?
Yes. Well, I mean, no.
Well, you hadn't swum before?
No, I tried, but it wouldn't happen.
But this time it did?
Yes.
Well, I'm told that you heard a voice, the voice of a guardian angel telling you what to do.
No, that's a lot of rot.
Well, you told the local reporter then.
Well, that's what he said it was.
But you did hear a voice.
Sort of.
And after you heard it, you found that you were able to swim. So, now you don't think it was a guardian angel that told you how to do it?
I never said anything about a guardian angel. That's just silly newspaper talk. All that happened was that I got into a flap and I just found I could swim, that's all.
But that was not all.
Oh, David.
Colonel Summers, who rescued Matthew and his sister Polly as they were being
Daddy,
swept
Mummy?
out to sea by strong currents, maintained
Put that off,
in
Mary.
any ordinary circumstance.
Matthew, why didn't you tell us?
Well, a man phoned up when you were out and said he was from the BBC. He came down with a tape recorder. I didn't think you'd
But
mind.
Matthew, surely
I
you...
didn't think they'd use it anyway. It wasn't that interesting.
Now, Matthew, no more interviews.
Well, it wasn't like an interview.
Well, what was it then?
I'm sorry, Daddy. I didn't know.
Look, Matthew, don't talk to any more strangers. Now, do you understand? I mean, we don't want them to get onto Chocky, do we?
I suppose not.
Promise?
Yes, I promise, Mummy. I'm sorry.
Oh, now sit down and eat your cornflakes like a good boy. Oh, David, get a move on or you'll miss your train. We're not still on holiday, you know.
It was in the train that I noticed it. Homeward, by Matthew Gore, aged 12. Reproduced in the morning newspapers from an exhibition entitled Art and the Schoolchild. There was no mistaking the new Matthew Chocky style. Roy Landis had seen it too, and he'd also heard the Today broadcast. He phoned me at the office, and we arranged to meet at his club the evening after next. Really, Roy, the press council or someone ought to do something about it. Poor Mary's had no peace at all. Finally, she had to leave the phone off the hook. But that didn't stop the callers at the front door, and then one reporter even managed to wheedle Matthew into a cake shop and get a story from him.
About the swimming business?
Yes, of course, several papers carried the painting thing, but none of them seem yet to have connected both stories with the same Matthew Gore. Well, not yet, anyway.
Strange. I'm afraid it'll only be a matter of time.
Yes, you're right.
I suppose Chocky is behind both incidents.
You're the psychiatrist. What do you think?
A bit rash submitting that picture for the exhibition. wasn't
Not
it?
rash, unauthorized.
Huh?
Matthew painted it for his art mistress, and she put it in. Mary tore one hell of a strip off her, but she thought she was only doing it for the best.
Well, I see a point. Certainly is a striking picture. An unusual vision of a school playground at the end of the day.
Yes, Chocky's vision.
Yes, Chocky. Everything comes back to her, doesn't it? Chocky's right in the wings, and she'll be taking her call in public at any moment. For all your sakes, I think we should prevent that.
You certainly do accept the reality of Chocky, don't you?
I merely apply the Sherlock Holmes dictum. When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth.
Elementary. But what, my dear Roy, do you suggest?
Thorpe.
What?
Thorpe. Sir William Thorpe. I've thought a lot about all this, David, and I'm sure he's your man. He's got all the experience, and he's not bigoted. He treats each case on its individual merits. Oh, he's sometimes unorthodox, but he nearly always gets results.
Isn't he the fellow who's just been appointed as a sort of advisory industrial psychologist to one of the big groups? You know, some sort of big business foundation?
That's right.
But surely he'll cost us a fortune.
No, not if he's really interested. And I think he will be in this one.
Well, let's hope so.
If anyone can help, I put my money on Thorpe.
Now, wait a minute, Roy. I thought you said the last time we met that Matthew didn't need help.
I'm still not convinced that he does. But I'm sure your wife does.
Yeah. She's afraid for Matthew. She wants Chocky driven away, abolished, exorcised.
Although Chocky saved your daughter's life?
Yeah. Of course, she's a bit confused about that part of it. I'm just afraid she might do something stupid.
Like trying to smoke out Chocky on her own?
Yeah, something like that.
Then I think you should discuss with her about taking Matthew to Sir William and agree to wait for his opinion on the case. And David?
Yes?
I think you could do with some sort of definite assurance yourself about Chocky. I am right, am I not?
Confound Roy. Of course he was right. But it was Mary I was worried about. After a few more days of being pestered, she was almost the end of her tether.
If I have ever questioned the power of the press, I retract. Well, these reporters are so pushing. Then we've had the vicar round, Matthew's headmaster on the phone, people from the local art group, 2 members of some spiritualist organization, just all the lunatic fringe. Oh, then there's my sister, David. She thinks it's all marvellous and wants to come down for the weekend.
Well, she can't. We're going away tomorrow morning early, not coming back till Sunday night. Now, you must get some rest, and it'll do Polly and Matthew good as well.
Oh, David, when is it all going to end?
Look, one thing we don't want, and that is for someone to connect Matthew Gore, artist, with the guardian angel hero. Then Chocky will be out of the bag on a national scale.
They would think that he's mad.
No, of course not, darling. Now, how could they? There isn't a saner boy anywhere than Matthew now is.
But if they... that he thinks he hears us speaking. I mean, hearing voices in your head, that's...
Darling, look, you're being afraid of the wrong thing. Roy Landis has pointed it out, and I'm sure this Thorpe man will bear him out. Chocky doesn't come from Matthew. It's something outside that comes to him.
What is Chocky? I mean, the swimming, the painting, all the strange questions.
Look, darling, whatever Chocky is, she's quite well disposed, isn't she? I mean, she did rescue the children, in a way.
In other words, you're trying to tell me that it is a guardian angel.
Yes, I suppose, in a sense.
Yes. Well, why don't you say it? You're no help at all.
Hello. Yes, dear. No, he's in bed asleep now. What? The same Matthew got... No, I can't. No, he'll be out tomorrow, Saturday. Yes, and Sunday. Yes, we'll all be out. Yes. Goodbye.
Was that...
One of the grand Sundays demanding an interview. They've just cottoned on to the fact that Matthew, lifesaver, and artist are one of the same. Now, come on, wake the children and get packed.
Oh, but David...
No, don't argue, Mary. We're going away tonight.
Where? We can't...
Anyway, I don't care. South Coast. And don't answer that. It's probably the rival Sunday. Let's leave your questions for Sir William to answer when I take Matthew to see him next week. Now, tell those news hawks we're out.
Oh, come in, Mr. Gore. I'm sorry to have kept you waiting.
That's all right, Sir William. I know how busy you are.
Busy? Well, that's business. Now, so this is Matthew.
Yes.
Hello, Matthew. I've heard a lot about you.
How'd you do, sir?
Well, now. Oh, I don't think I need keep you, Mr. Gore. Dr. Landis has already given me a very comprehensive brief, and I prefer it if we're left alone. You don't mind that, do you, Matthew?
No, sir.
So if you'd like to come back in, say, 2 hours... no, let's make it a little longer. Say, 4:30.
That's rather a long time, isn't it?
Well, for a new patient, the minimum is 2 hours. Matthew and I have rather a lot to talk about, haven't we, Matthew?
Sir?
So if you'd like to come back and collect Matthew, we should be finished by, 4:30. He'll be with my secretary by then.
But won't you want to...
No, see, you know, Mr. Gore. No, put everything in writing and send it to you in a day or two. Results aren't always immediate, you know. Good afternoon.
Oh, good afternoon, Sir William. Will you be all right, Matthew?
Yes, thank you, Daddy.
Answer Sir William's questions like a good boy. He knows all about Chocky, all right? See you later.
Do you
What?
know all about Chocky?
Well, not all. That's what I want you to tell me. But I do know about her. Now, you sit down there.
Here?
Yes, that's it, under the light. Good. I like your father.
Yes, so do I.
He knows all about Chocky, of course.
Oh, yes, we don't have secrets.
And Mummy,
Well,
she doesn't understand.
no, nor Polly,
Polly?
my sister.
Oh, yes, the young lady Chocky made you rescue.
Yes, Chocky rescued her.
Good. Now, Matthew, do you like records?
Oh, yes. But Chocky says that our music is all wrong.
Yes, I know that, but this record I'm going to play is the sort of music that Chocky would understand, that she'd like.
Oh?
Yes. You don't just have to listen to it, you look at it as well. You must watch the record going round. There's a pattern on it. You see?
Yes. I've never seen a record like that before.
I expect Chocky has. Now, put your head between your hands.
Yes.
And lean forward. And as it goes round, you keep staring at it as well as listening to it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Good. There. Watching?
The pattern's moving. It's rather like the bathwater going down the plug hole.
Yes. Yes, it is. Not the same sort of noise, though, is it?
No.
Do you like it? The sound?
Mm.
Does Chocky like it?
Don't know. Don't know.
Matthew? You like it, don't you, Chocky? Eh? Chocky?
Hypnosis. From what Matthew told me, it's quite obvious.
I can't say that I like the idea very much.
Well, I'm sure that Sir William only used hypnosis because he thought it was the quickest and easiest method.
Whatever his methods, the result's been very strange. He's not like the same child.
What do you mean?
Well, sure you've noticed. Ever since he saw that Thorpe man, 2 days ago? Well, he's been so listless.
Well, he just goes off on long walks, taking sandwiches, and he's painting things with him. No harm in that.
Yeah, but there's no life in him. When he comes back, he just shuts himself away in his room. I looked in last night to see if he was all right. There he was, just lying there, staring at the ceiling.
Perhaps he's sickening for something.
No. I'm sure it's to do with what that psychiatrist said to him.
Yeah, could be. Where is he now?
Up in his room. You must admit it's not like him.
Perhaps I'll just pop up to see how he is.
Do. I don't think you'll get much out of him. They might tell you more than he tells me. After all, I'm only his mother.
Oh, no, that's not fair, Mary.
Oh, sorry. Polly and I do feel a bit left out of it, though. Go up and see what you can do, David.
Matthew?
Yes.
Only me. Thought I'd drop in, see if you wanted anything.
No, thank you, Daddy.
Why don't you get into bed properly? Mummy will bring your supper up on a tray.
It's all right. Thanks.
Do some painting today?
Yes.
Massey?
Yes. Those over there.
These?
Yes.
Did Chocky help you?
Oh, yes, same as before.
This one's the Downs, isn't it?
Yes.
It's very beautiful.
Yes, it is rather. Chocky says that except where we've spoilt it, this is a very beautiful planet.
Well, the way she paints it, it certainly is. Oh, well, these are docks from Great Pond, aren't they?
Yes, all three. Of course, they're not quite the way we see the place, but that's how she sees it.
What's this? Looks like nowhere on earth.
It isn't. That's where Chocky lives. It's a horrid place, isn't it?
Not very nice. Looks very hot.
Oh, it is, in daytime.
What are these bumps?
Oh, those are things that grow there.
And these rocky things?
They're sort of towns in the distance. Well, not towns exactly, but without words, they're rather hard to describe. There isn't the same kind of thing here.
Where is it?
Chocky and I couldn't find out. Or where our world is either.
Yes, well, I'd keep that one out of Mummy's way if I were you.
Yes, Daddy, that's what I thought.
Good.
Don't worry, though. They're the last pictures.
What's the matter, Matthew? Come on, tell me.
It's Chocky, Daddy.
She's going away?
It's like losing a part of me. She's gone, Daddy. Forever.
I don't see why you had to sit up with him all night, David. Here's your toast.
Well, look, you don't understand, Mary. The boy found saying goodbye to Chocky painful, difficult.
He's talking as though she's real.
To Matthew, she is.
Well, I hope he'll come down and eat his breakfast.
He'll be done, all right.
Oh, thank goodness it's all over then. Looks as though Sir William Thorpe cured him.
Cured him?
Well, got rid of it under hypnosis. Exorcised him, if you want to use the way your friend Landis spoke. Possession. It was all a fantasy, and the fantasy he's, well, dispersed.
I wish it could have been done in a way that didn't upset the boy quite so much. However, it seems you're right.
Oh?
Yes, Sir William's report, analysis, call it what you want to, came in this morning's post. You better read it. He seems to support your theories.
What does he say?
Everything and nothing. There's a lot of waffle and high words about the Chocky presence and the Chocky trauma, but it all boils down to fantasy and the subconscious taking over. Everything's explained away quite logically and all for no charge.
What?
Yes, an interesting case.
You ought to be glad.
Well, I'm glad Matthew's better, if that is what he is, but I must say I'm pretty disappointed.
No, really, David.
Don't worry. This also came with the post.
What is it?
A registered package from the Royal Swimming Society. After Colonel Summers' constant recommendation, I leave its contents to your imagination.
Oh, I like that. It'll help make up for losing Chocky.
No, I don't think it will.
Morning, Mummy. Morning, Daddy.
Morning.
Oh, what's that, Daddy?
Well, it's for you, Matthew. It came this morning.
Oh?
Yeah, here you are. Now, you sit down, I'll get you breakfast. What is it, dear?
I don't want it.
Oh, but it's lovely, Matthew. A lovely bronze medal.
It's not fair. It's Chocky's. She saved me and Polly. It's not true, Daddy. It's not true. It's not true.
Matthew, darling.
Leave him, Mary. Let's have a look at it.
Awarded to Matthew Gore for a valorous deed. It's a shame he's taken it like that.
It's a shame it arrived when it did. Give it to me, Mary. I'll keep it for him till later on. The rest of the week was uneventful, and Matthew somehow seemed to have recovered from his loss. On Friday, I worked late at the office, had dinner in town, and didn't arrive home until well after 10 o'clock. A frantic Mary was on the telephone.
Right. There. Oh, thank you for your help. Yes, I will. It's my husband. He's just come back. I must go. Goodbye. Oh, David.
Mary, what's the matter? You look awful. What's the matter?
It's Matthew. He's gone.
Gone?
Disappeared.
Disappeared?
He didn't come back from school at the usual time, and I waited in case he'd been kept in or something. And then at 6, I phoned the school, and they told me he'd left just after 4.
What?
So I got worried and phoned the police.
So what did they say?
They were very helpful. They said they'd ring if they had any news, but that was over 4 hours ago.
Well, why, look, Mary,
Meanwhile,
why...
I phoned all the hospitals round here. I was on to one of them when you... David, I'm so glad you...
Now, sit down, darling, and
I
relax.
can't. I'm so worried. It must be something to do with all this Chocky business. He must have lost his memory or something and be wandering about.
Now, look, Mary, if Matthew were to have done anything silly, it would have happened a couple of weeks ago when Chocky left. He'd got over her completely. So William's treatment did the trick. Now, we know that.
And perhaps Polly's right.
Polly, what does she say?
She thinks Matthew's been kidnapped.
But why?
Well, he's something of a celebrity in the papers and that sort of thing.
Well, in that case, they must know we can't afford an enormous ransom.
And what's more, the papers are onto his disappearance already.
How?
People talk. Some of the boys at school. We know only too well how quickly news travels.
Oh, I can just see them relishing headlines like child artist vanishes, guardian angel hero missing.
David.
Well, just hope it doesn't come to that. Now, look, Mary, look, there's probably some perfectly simple explanation.
Perhaps that's the police. They might have heard something.
I'll take it. Hello, Mr. Gore speaking. Oh, yes, Mr. Bollett.
Who?
Yes, I think we met at some parent-teachers thing. Yes, that's right.
Larry's father.
Oh, so he told you? Yes. Did he? When? Huh? Yes, I see. What was it like? Well, look, I think it's best if I come round and pick up you and Lawrence, and then we'll all go down to the police station together. All right? Yes, she is. Yes, I will. Yeah. About 10 minutes, all right? Bye.
Well?
Lawrence Bollett apparently saw Matthew talking to a man in a big car. A Mercedes, he thinks, not far from the school gates. Matthew got into the car and they drove off.
Who?
The boy didn't know. He happened to mention to his father that Matthew seemed to be missing and told him a bit about the car. Because of various cases in the papers, the Bollets thought we ought to know.
Darling, you don't think it is anything like that?
No, of course not. Matthew can look after himself. He's a sensible boy.
Well, let's hope the police can help. We must have some news of Matthew soon.
But there wasn't. There was no news, good or bad. Except in the newspapers, of course. Even threats, a demand for ransom, would have been more bearable than this silent vanishing into utter nothingness. The following week seemed endless, and the ensuing weekend longer still. And then?
Matthew. Hello, Mummy. Why didn't you and Daddy come to see me? Oh,
It's all right, Mrs. Gore. I think I can explain.
oh, Mummy, you don't know Dr. Frost. He's with the police in Birmingham. He's been ever so kind.
Well, hello, but... Well, you better come in.
Thank you. I won't keep you long.
Is Mr. Gore...
Yes, he's in the living room. Do you want to...
Yes, please. Now, Matthew, you tell Mummy all about it whilst I have a word with your father. I think Mrs. Gore...
How is Daddy?
Well, he's being very worried. But you come into the kitchen, have a nice warm drink, while Dr. Frost has a few words with your father.
All right, but don't be long.
I won't be. In here?
Yes. Now, come along, Matthew.
Mr. Gore?
Yes. I gather Matthew...
Yes, I won't keep you long. I imagine you want to see the boy, but before you do, well, there are one or two things...
Yes, of course.
Dr. Frost, police surgeon from Birmingham.
Dr. Frost. I can't tell you how delighted we are to have Matthew back with us.
I understand. A most unusual case, the most considerate kidnapping that I've ever heard of.
Kidnapping?
Yes.
But I've had no ransom notes, nothing.
That's why I said unusual. The boy has come to no harm, nor does he seem to be suffering any ill effects, mental or physical.
But surely...
Except for the injections. A dozen or more in both arms. We've tested him, but can't make out what they were for. The second thing is even more curious.
I'd have thought that unidentifiable injections were enough.
Matthew insists that he was involved in a car accident and that his right leg was broken.
What?
He says that he was taken to hospital, put into plaster, and that it mended very quickly.
And?
Well, there was nothing at all wrong with his leg. But there were signs of his having been in plaster up to his thigh. He seems to have been very well treated at the hospital, though he couldn't understand why you and Mrs. Gore didn't visit him, or why he was suddenly dumped in the centre of Birmingham.
Birmingham?
I'm afraid it looks to us as though someone wanted him out of the way for 10 days or so. We can't think why.
Neither can I. There's just no sense in it.
You and your wife will probably get more out of your son than we can. Not, mark you, that he has deliberately held anything back from us, but you know how it is. So, if you do come up with anything, Mr. Gore, we'd be more than grateful if you'd get in touch with the police.
It wasn't until Mary had put Matthew to bed for an early night that we got his version of the story.
So you see, this man stopped in his car as I was leaving school and asked if I knew where Mr. Gore lived. Well, obviously I knew our house, so I got in and said I'd bring him here. Well, the next thing I knew was when I woke up in hospital.
How did you know it was a hospital?
Because there were doctors and nurses and things, and my leg was in plaster. I'd broken it in the crash.
Didn't it hurt?
No, not at all. You see, they gave me lots of injections and so on for the pain. Lots of injections. And it soon got better.
But Matthew, why didn't you let us know where you were?
Well, the doctor said they'd done that. And I wrote to you.
Oh?
Yes, 2 letters. I wish you'd got them and come to see me. It was all pretty boring without television or the radio. And they wouldn't let me go out into the grounds.
When did they tell you were better?
Yesterday. The doctor came in and took the plaster off my leg and said that it was better and that I could go home.
Yes?
Well, it was evening, and I got into this big black car. The blinds were down so as not to dazzle the driver. Then the doctor gave me some chocolate to drink to keep me warm, and soon after that I fell asleep. Well, the next thing I knew was when I woke up in Birmingham next morning in a different car. It was all pretty strange, really. And I thought the best thing was to find a policeman. When I told him my name, he seemed to know all about me.
We've been very worried about you, darling. You see, we didn't know where you were, so we had to ask the police to help to find you.
Was I kidnapped, Daddy? Polly thinks I was.
Looks very much like it.
But they were doctors. Awfully nice, kind people.
Oh, of course, they would be.
Did you have to pay a lot of money to get me back?
No, nothing at all.
Then why did they want to kidnap me?
Well, we thought you'd be able to tell us.
Well, I can't. But perhaps Chocky.
I thought she'd gone.
Well, she did go, but she sort of came back. She said she'd have to stay because she wants me to tell Daddy something. But I'm sorry, Mummy.
It's all right, Matthew. Mummy understands, don't you, Mary?
If you say so. But don't be long, either of you. And Matthew?
Yes, Mummy?
After this, no more Chocky.
Yes, Mummy.
Good night, darling. And sleep well.
Good night.
See you downstairs, David.
Yes, all right. Well?
I'm sorry about that. Mummy won't mind, will she?
No, of course not. Now, what is it?
Well, Chocky wants to speak to you. And she says it's best if she does the talking, as I'd be rather slow.
How?
Well, it's the same as with the painting and the swimming. I'll think of nothing, and then she'll sort of speak through me.
Well, you can try it, but
Oh, it'll work all right. She says it will. I'll just close my eyes. There. Now wait.
Matthew? Matthew, look here, don't you... Matthew?
It is Chocky talking.
I'm listening. I'll try and follow you, Chocky.
I won't come back after this. Your wife will be glad, though I don't mean Matthew any harm. Do you understand?
I think so. But first tell me who you are, why you're here.
I am an explorer, a missionary. I came here to teach things.
Where do you come from?
Far, far away. Many, many parsecs. I came to find out what sort of planet this is.
But why?
Ours is a very old planet compared to yours. It is very overcrowded, so we must find other planets to colonize. Of the millions and millions of planets in space, hardly one is suitable for our purpose. Before we send a ship, scouts are sent out to explore.
And is our planet suitable?
Oh, no. It is very beautiful, but for many reasons it is quite impossible. I could tell that at once.
Then why did you stay?
Intelligent life is very rare. At one time, we thought we were unique, but our journeys into space have shown us one or two other civilizations. We must study, we must learn, and we can teach.
What do you think of us?
Narrow. Your technology is primitive. You have not solved the problem of an infinite supply of power. Your use of sun-based fuels is like someone living entirely on capital. One day, perhaps, you will discover cosmic radiation in the same way that you discovered electricity or atomic energy.
But, Chocky, why did you choose to haunt Matthew?
Because he was intelligent enough to be developed, and young enough not to have rigid conceptions. If, with my help, he had succeeded in demonstrating, let us call it, cosmic power, he might have been greater than your Newton or your Einstein.
Then why are you leaving him?
Because I have failed. I made mistakes. I became too involved with him. I did too much. I told him too much. I was not discreet.
Well, for Matthew's sake, I can't say that I'm sorry.
When he hypnotized Matthew and found out all about me, I knew I had to go. I knew that he and his industrial friends would stop at nothing. And they did not. They kidnapped Matthew. They drugged and hypnotized him until they had wrung him dry. So I had to let them know that I had gone, that Matthew was of no further use to them.
But why not tell them all about this cosmic power thing? I should have thought that was the opportunity you wanted.
And what then would have been the value of a little boy's life? He'd have become a pawn in a game of industrial greed and power politics. Even now, Sir William and his friends will be watching Matthew. Only if I go can he be free.
Will you go back to your own world?
No. I still have work to do here. I will help you to solve your planet's problems, but I will be more subtle, more careful from now on.
What are you, Chocky? What are you really like?
That is something you would not understand, and it is better that you do not know. Now, if you will leave us, I would like to say goodbye to Matthew.
All right. Goodbye, Chocky.
Goodbye. And thank you for having tried to understand. Don't wake Matthew till the morning. He'll be himself again by then.
Last time we did this walk, you asked me those questions about the cows, remember? Why does a cow stop and so on?
Yes. It seems a long time ago now.
Still, they were all Chocky's questions, really, weren't they?
Yes.
She told me why she had to go, you know.
Yes, she told me too. It's going to be a bit dull without her. She sort of made me notice things more.
Well, you can still go on noticing things. The world's quite an interesting place. Lots to notice.
Oh, I do. More than I did. Only it's a bit lonely noticing just by yourself.
Well, you could share it with other people. You could write it, or you can paint.
I suppose so. It wouldn't be the same, but it would be something.
Look, Matthew, I've got something for you. This.
It's that life-saving medal.
Yes, it is.
I don't want it. It's not mine.
I know. But take it. Go on, take it. Go on. Now open it.
But, Daddy, I told you it's not mine.
Read what it says.
Awarded to Chocky for a valorous deed. To Chocky! Oh, thank you, Daddy, thank you!
It's been properly inscribed this time, so keep it.
Yes, Daddy. Now I can.
Chocky was written by John Wyndham and adapted by John Tydeman. Eric Thompson played David Gore, Sheila Grant played Mary Gore, and J. Bennett played Matthew. Alan Froome, Peter Baldwin, Roy Landis, Michael Spice, Sir William Thorpe, Rolf Lefevre, Dr. Frost, Lockwood West, Dennis Chattery, John Badley. Jack Emanuel was, of course, Jack Emanuel. The play was produced by John Tydeman.